There's a strange feeling most people carry but never talk about. It's not stress. It's not anxiety. It's not pressure. It's something deeper, quieter, and far more dangerous. It's the constant sensation that you're supposed to be doing something every minute of the day. That if you're not producing, responding, improving, showing up, posting, optimizing, or running toward the next goal, you're failing. Some people don't even notice it anymore. It became the background noise of their existence, a hum they mistake for life happening. But deep inside, they can feel a restlessness, a hunger to fill every second, a need to occupy every corner of their mind. And the scariest part, they don't even know who they're racing against. Maybe you know this feeling too, waking up already late for something you can't name, drinking coffee not because you want it, but because it keeps you from collapsing, opening your phone before opening your eyes, checking messages before checking on yourself, living inside a loop where everything feels urgent and yet nothing feels alive. It's the modern paradox. Always busy, never alive. People today run like they're being chased. But by what? A deadline? A fear of being left behind? The pressure to keep up with a world that never stops? Or maybe it's the fear of hearing their own thoughts. And in this silent competition, something tragic happens. We start losing the small pieces of life that actually make us human. A simple breeze on your face after a tense day, the way sunlight hits your kitchen table at 3 p.m., the smile of your child calling your name, the warmth of someone you love leaning into you without saying a word, the moment you breathe and realize you're alive. But all of this gets swallowed by the need to keep going, to fill the next minute, to respond to the next expectation, to chase a version of life that feels more like a checklist than a story. And here's the painful truth. Most people don't want a peaceful life. They want a fast life that feels meaningful. They want to run, 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 until they collapse into a version of themselves they can finally respect. But what if that collapse never comes? What if they just keep running forever? That's the trap. You keep moving because slowing down feels like failure. Silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels wrong. Presence feels like wasted time. So you look for noise, tasks, distractions, microdopamine hits disguised as productivity. You tell yourself, I'll rest after this project. I'll slow down when things get better. I'll breathe when I finally arrive. But you never arrive. You're always on your way to something, but never actually in anything. You're everywhere and nowhere, present in every responsibility, absent in your own life. And there's a hidden cost to this lifestyle that nobody warns you about. When you live constantly occupied, you stop noticing the things that give meaning to your existence. You don't notice how your kid's voice changes as they grow. You don't notice how your partner looks at you when you're talking. You don't notice your own exhaustion, because exhaustion became normal. You don't notice life trying to show you beauty, because beauty requires presence. And presence isn't automatic. Presence is a choice. But how do you choose presence when everything around you screams urgency? When everyone you know is rushing too? When every screen, every notification, every demand hijacks your attention before you even realize it? People think the problem is time. Not enough hours, not enough days, not enough energy. But the real problem is attention. Attention is your most valuable currency. And today, everyone wants a piece of it. Companies, apps, deadlines, people, expectations, your own fear of not being enough. So you divide yourself into fragments, giving a little bit of your mind to everything and keeping nothing for yourself. That's why even when you're alone, you feel crowded. Your mind is full, but your life is empty. Your schedule is packed, but your soul is starving. You're running, but you don't know where. You're accomplishing, but not living. And at some point, people start to wonder, when did life become a battlefield? When did being alive turn into surviving the day? When did being productive replace being present? This isn't about abandoning your responsibilities. This isn't about ignoring goals, dreams, ambition, or evolution. This is about remembering something simple and powerful. You don't have to live as if every second is an emergency. You don't have to rush through your own story. You don't have to earn your right to breathe. Life is not asking you to run faster. Life is asking you to come back to yourself, back to the moments that matter, back to the details that make you human, back to the truth you've forgotten along the way. You are allowed to be alive, not just busy, not just functioning, not just surviving, alive. And the moment you truly understand this, something begins to shift inside you, a subtle awakening, a quiet clarity, a realization that maybe, just maybe, life wasn't meant to be a race at all. There's a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when people begin to confuse movement with meaning. They wake up, start checking boxes, solving problems, completing tasks, and they convince themselves that this is living. Not because they're shallow, but because the world taught them something extremely dangerous. That value comes from velocity. It's one of the biggest cultural illusions, especially in America. If you're busy, you matter. If you slow down, you fall behind. If you rest, someone else takes your place. And this illusion shapes how people walk through life. They don't breathe. They calculate. They don't feel. They schedule. They don't experience. They manage. But here's the twist. The human mind isn't built for non-stop urgency. It tries to adapt, but eventually something shifts. You start living in alert mode, thinking it's normal. That's why people feel tired even after sleeping. Why they feel restless even when nothing is wrong. Why silence makes them uncomfortable, even threatened. Because silence exposes what rushing successfully hides. And this is where the real problem begins. You start losing your sense of inner direction. You're moving, yes, constantly, but the movement no longer comes from intention. It comes from inertia, and inertia is a thief. It takes your days, your attention, your presence, your joy, and returns nothing. But the truth is, people don't rush because they love rushing. They rush because they're afraid of stopping. Stopping means facing the truth about how disconnected they feel. Stopping means confronting the gap between the life they imagined and the life they're living. Stopping means realizing that they've been existing inside routines that are too small for the size of their soul. And so they keep going. They fill their calendars. They stretch their limits. They stack responsibilities. They say yes to things they don't want. They pretend their exhaustion is just another phase. But deep inside, they miss themselves. They miss the version of them who used to laugh at small things, who could sit on the couch without grabbing the phone, who noticed colors, details, gestures, who didn't measure worth by productivity, who felt life, not just ran through it. And here's something few people admit. Most of the time, they're not chasing success. They're running away from emotional noise. It's easier to stay busy than to sit with your own mind. Easier to answer emails than answer deep questions. Easier to keep moving than to ask, is this the life I want to be living? And when that question appears, even for a split second, they silence it by adding more to the to-do list. Because motion feels safer than meaning, but this constant motion has a cost that creeps in quietly. You become emotionally unavailable without noticing, not because you don't care, but because your attention is always somewhere else. You're physically present with your child, but mentally rehearsing tomorrow's tasks. You're having dinner with someone you love, but your mind is inside unfinished conversations. You're walking through your own life like a visitor who isn't sure they're allowed to stay. And the worst part, you begin believing that this is normal. You start thinking that peace is unrealistic, presence is a luxury, and that one day life will magically slow down to meet you. But that day never comes on its own. Life doesn't slow down for you. You slow down for life. And that's where awakening truly begins. Not in books, not in lectures, not in 10 steps to success videos. Awakening begins the moment you realize you've been living in fast forward. It begins when you notice the absurdity of racing through a life that was never meant to be a race. When you feel a sting of sadness because you recognize how many moments you've missed without meaning to. When you catch yourself scrolling through a day you never fully lived. When you understand that constant acceleration doesn't equal evolution, it often means avoidance. Awakening isn't dramatic. It doesn't explode. It whispers. It's the quiet realization that you don't want to die one day and look back at a life you never actually inhabited. And once this recognition enters your awareness, everything starts to shift. Not quickly, not perfectly, but honestly. You start questioning the autopilot. You start noticing the invisible urgency that controls you. You start wondering why you treat rest as guilt instead of nourishment. You start feeling the distance between existing and living. And slowly, the world inside you begins to reorganize. Your mind starts wanting something different. Not more stimulation, not more distractions, not more pressure, but clarity. Clarity to choose, clarity to breathe, clarity to feel life again without rushing past it. Clarity to differentiate what matters from what merely keeps you occupied. Because once you taste even a single moment of real presence, just one, everything else starts feeling cheap. You begin to see the insanity of trying to be everywhere but never truly being anywhere. You begin to feel the weight of all the moments you postponed. You begin to understand that some things can wait, but your life cannot. And this is where transformation becomes possible. Not by changing your schedule, not by quitting everything, not by running away from responsibilities, but by finally recognizing the truth. You deserve to live a life that feels alive, not one you're constantly trying to catch up with. The world won't give you that life. You create it through awareness, through intention, through presence. And the moment you realize this, you're no longer trapped in the race. You become the one choosing the pace. There's a moment in every person's life, sometimes early, sometimes late, when the truth finally catches up. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or warnings. It doesn't announce itself. It comes quietly, soft, precise. You're standing in your kitchen, or driving home, or brushing your teeth, when a thought rises from a place you've ignored for years. If I keep living like this, what am I actually living? And that question, that single uncomfortable question, is the beginning of a new life. Not because you suddenly change everything, but because something inside finally wakes up. Not spiritually, but consciously. In a grounded, logical, deeply human way. You realize you've been sprinting through a life that never asked you to run. You see how many days you spent reacting instead of choosing. You feel how heavy it is to carry the weight of constant urgency. You notice how much of yourself got lost in the noise. And once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it. Awareness is irreversible, but awareness alone doesn't fix anything. It simply reveals what needs to be rebuilt. And this is the part that scares people. Because rebuilding doesn't mean changing your job, selling your house, or reinventing your entire identity. It begins with something much smaller, but far more powerful. Presence. Presence is the cure for the disease of always busy. Not productivity hacks, not planners, not apps, not time management systems. Presence. Because presence breaks the cycle of rushing without direction. Presence reconnects you with what actually matters. Presence replaces chaos with clarity. Presence makes your life feel real again. And here's the truth most people avoid. You can only feel alive in the moment you're actually living. Not the next one. Not the one in your head. Not the one in your calendar. This one. But people forget this because the world constantly pushes them away from themselves. Work wants your hours. Technology wants your attention. People want your availability. Your own mind wants resolution, answers, control. And if you don't take back your presence intentionally, the world will happily consume it for you. So how do you get it back? Not with rituals, not with complicated techniques, not with unrealistic lifestyle changes. You take it back in small, unglamorous decisions. You pause before responding. You breathe before reacting. You finish a moment before entering the next one. You listen without preparing your next sentence. You look someone in the eyes without rushing the exchange. You let silence exist without trying to fill it. You allow yourself 1 minute, just one, where you're not solving anything. These are not spiritual practices. They're human practices, neurological practices, life practices. And when you start doing them, even quietly, even imperfectly, something shifts. You begin noticing the world again, the softness of a morning light, the warmth of your coffee, the way someone you love says your name, the texture of a breeze after a stressful day, the small details that remind you that life isn't a list, it's an experience. And from that place, you naturally begin making different choices. You say no with more clarity. You say yes with more honesty. You prioritize better, not to be more efficient, but to be more alive. You stop letting urgency define your worth. You stop apologizing for needing rest. You stop confusing motion with meaning. You start living with intention, the rarest skill in the modern world. And something magical happens when you do. The world stops feeling like it's pushing you. It starts responding to you. Opportunities feel cleaner. Relationships feel lighter. Your mind feels sharper. Your emotions stop running ahead of you. You feel present, capable, alive. Not perfect, but alive. And that's the point of this whole video. Not to make you slow down forever. Not to romanticize a life with no responsibilities. Not to tell you that busyness is wrong. It's to remind you of something simple, logical, and deeply real. You weren't born to live in emergency mode. A life lived in constant acceleration becomes a life you never truly inhabit. And presence, real presence, is what turns existence into experience. You don't need to escape your life. You just need to come back to it. Because the moments that make a life meaningful are not loud, dramatic, or extraordinary. They're subtle, often quiet, often small. But they're the moments that build your story. The ones that stay with your memory long after everything else fades. This is your reminder that your life is happening now, not later. Not when things get easier, not when you catch up. Now. And if something in you is waking up while hearing this, even a small part, maybe it's because you're ready to stop, racing through your life and start living inside it. If this message found you at the right time, share it with someone who needs the same reminder. And if you're ready for more clarity and awakening through logic, science, and real human awareness, stay with us. There's a lot more coming. This is Human Wave, where awakened minds rise into a life of wholeness and fulfillment.